liaison.
There, is it time? Right, so I'm just going to shut that door. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying I'm not for this one. So,
Because it's been just me, I wouldn't have done it.
Like what proceeding, what like. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Woodley Town Council's Planning and Community Committee. The Town Council meetings are now recorded. The recording streamed live and stored on the Town Council's YouTube channel. By virtue of attending the meeting, you consent to having your image and audio recorded for this purpose. If you do not wish for your image and audio to be recorded, then please do not stay for the meeting. Those in attendance, we're not expecting a fire drill tonight, so if you hear the fire alarm, please head to the nearest fire exit and congregate at the fire assembly point by the Oakwood Centre at the front of Woodford Park. Right. Do you have any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from councillors Bragg and Lewis.
Very much. Do we have any declarations of interest? No. Okay, thank you. And we come on to the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting held on the 25th of July. Has everybody had the opportunity to have a look and to agree that they are a true record of that meeting, and can I sign them as such?
yes.
Thank you. Right. Item number 4 is the current planning applications. Go straight into that when I can find the page. And we start with application number 231625, which is 12 Hannock Way, Woodley. It's an application for the proposed conversion of an existing lot to create a habitable accommodation to include 1 number dormer plus changes to fenestration. Okay. Are there any comments on that application that you bring to attention? No comments at all. This is one where the consultation is actually closed, but we've made a point that we will not be reported till the 1st.
Yeah, we always any one that comes in after our last meeting that the consultation is finished before the next meeting, we would have an agreement and we write to work agreement and say our comments will come afterwards and they delay making a decision until then.
Okay. Yeah, I've got a note here. I've put a note. It seemed to me that there was only 1 parking space off road, and this is for a 5-bedroom property. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and it's on a corner plot, so road parking on the bend might be a difficulty. Is that something that we should be concerned about?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Other than that, are there any other issues that we feel we ought to discuss on this one? Do we make that a reason for refusing, or do we just make it as a yes? Councillor.
Bill, I thought it was a stipulation within the planning that if you had a 3-bedroom and you were going to make it a 5-bedroom, then you had to add X number of spaces, and they had to be proper spaces. That's what I thought was in there. It was in
Their policy.
yeah. So yes, I think we should flag it up. I wouldn't say refuse it,
No, no.
but we would urge that sufficient parking is.
So we'd ask for a recommendation that sufficient parking is made available.
Please, yes, please.
Just for information, the WBC Building Design Guide specifically addresses that issue.
That was what I was referring to.
Matthew wants to look it up. A bit out of date now, but it does actually sort of do that.
Yeah, it does,
correlation.
yeah.
If you've got X rooms, then you should have.
Yeah, no, and we should flag it up and not just assume that someone's.
Sorry, my feeling is we should refuse. And the reason we should give is that there's only 1 parking space.
Anybody else have any views that way? So this is-
Okay, one against one.
No, the proposal is that we refuse. If we want to take a vote on that, if we refuse or
Bill, could we say we refuse unless this parking
Yes,
situation
Yes,
is
well, we
sorted?
can say that is the
Yeah.
reason,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're not being so
Hmm.
black and white then, yeah?
do something along those lines. We make
Yes, a Woking like us to respond with objections or no objections, as opposed to recommending.
Right, okay.
Because we're not.
No, we're not.
So it's whether we wish to, object on the fact that there is only one parking space currently, but should that matter be resolved?
Councillor Taylor.
Just a question, really. Has the house got a garage? I can't remember. And does that count as part of the space?
It did have a garage, by the look of it.
One that's previously lost his garage space.
Well, that's been converted, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Hard to see.
It doesn't,
You're
it
left
doesn't
on
suggest that from the current to the proposed, there is any loss in any parking space. The parking space is the one parking space that currently exists in the property, whether that was removed at a previous date.
But we've increased the number of bedrooms. That's the difficulty, isn't it? So one would assume there is a possibility of more than one car parking space being required.
So we object.
Okay, thank you. On to next, which is 231655 22 Limburg Way, householder application for the proposed erection of a single story rear extension, plus first floor side extension. Any comments on that particular application? Saw no reason for objection on that one, I must admit. No. So are we all happy that that one's? Okay, thank you very much.
Just in it, sorry. Letter from number 21. No particular, they've got concerns
Sorry, where was that one?
on. But from number 21, comments. That's on this.
41.
Single story, more than doubles. The right one, actually.
That's the right one, that's the right one, yeah.
They're not happy. Right, they've made 3 points there.
Concerns. The single story extension more than doubles the amount of build on our neighbour's side that already runs alongside our garden, which on completion of the current application would extend the build to most of our garden's total length. With this in mind, we have a general concern that efficient man-made and natural drainage is in place. We have a concern that the height of the sloping roof elevation may impede on the light to our ground floor habitable rooms, as well as garden. We assume all underground foul drainage routes would be checked prior to work being carried out.
That really comes into building control, doesn't it? The second part of building control rather than planning, I would think.
These concerns are these things going to be looked at?
Yes.
He's discussed it with the neighbour and told the neighbours, it all seems very,
Yeah.
he probably just wants to reassurance that will.
We're happy to agree just on the condition that the neighbours' concerns are taken into account.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. Are you okay with that? Yeah. Very good. Right, 231713 Sanford Farm, Mohawk Way. Application for proposed erection of a two-storey dwelling with single-storey entrance link walkway, single-storey detached office and a second single-storey detached unit for bin, bicycle storage and garden store. This is a unusually shaped development, if I remember. It goes down like a cheese, all right, tapers down. It's quite an unusual development, two buildings linked. We've got it on there.
Yeah, I haven't got all the
I
plans.
don't know. I don't really see
Yes.
the access is off the perimeter road, which doesn't seem to be.
So is that he's building in his garden then, is it?
There's plenty of parking off road. It doesn't seem to be any problem with neighbouring properties.
That's the existing site plan. That's a proposal to put the buildings in here. Yeah, I think there's a driveway that comes in here with bike storage down here.
Yes, that's been refused before. There was an application for 2 large houses in there, wasn't there? Yeah. So by doing that, making it back again what it was.
Yeah. Yes, any comments, anybody? Yes, sorry, Carol.
Yes, yeah, I'm not happy with this one. I think it will change the nature of the perimeter road, which I see as more of a pedestrian walkers access at the moment. There's certainly no driveways off of it. The access to the existing houses is on the corner. I think this new drive, it just changes the whole aspect of that perimeter road, which people walk, cycle along, dog walk along without a care in the world because they think there's no vehicles along there. So that's a concern I have. They're relying on the applicant being concerned about the shadowing. It says it will be shaded by trees unless the sun is overhead. Great to see the trees are being kept, but I wonder how safe they are, because to move into a house like that with no sunlight coming in, I think is probably not going to sell it too well. The design of they almost look like barns.
One's a single story, one's a 2-story.
Yeah,
That's part.
very with some accommodation in the roof. They're totally different to the ones opposite on the new, that's it, to the new development. Although those, again, is shielded by the trees. No, I think it's the impact on the perimeter road as a walkway at the moment, I think is totally unacceptable. In particular, the driveway being able to access that. And it would change the character and nature of it.
The driveway itself is short, leads to gated access, doesn't it? So there's gates before you actually get onto the property.
It's still access.
Yeah. Okay. What's the general feeling on that one?
Just say that it's very similar in build to the one that's currently there, and there is currently a driveway off perimeter road to the one that's currently there. And that, although Carol describes it as a walkway, it is currently a highway, that road. You can drive down. But I don't know, it's, from a personal point of view, I think it's a bit overbearing for the plot of land that's there. And it's going to be very close to those houses in Jasmine Square, Rose Road. If you go down there, it isn't a very big bit of land, is it?
No.
And it was previously refused to have a 4-bed house on there.
Yes. Okay.
But other than that, I don't mind.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what we've got from a planning point of view to say no to it. I mean, I must say, from an aesthetic point of view, I thought it was rather interesting and a bit of a contrast to
Well, I'm not saying no, Jim.
quite a lot
I'm
of
just,
tedious architecture in Woodley, which I've now become attuned to since being on this committee, including my own house. Yes, I thought it was quite sort of sensitive to the plot, really, because of the nature of the materials that they're using. And we come back to, we need to build more houses, and here's an awkward plot. And somebody's put something livable with. So I wouldn't be as exercised as Carol about the perimeter road, although I take a point.
Yours was overbearing, wasn't it?
I think it's overbearing. I wouldn't object to it just on that. It's just my personal view. I wouldn't object to it for that reason.
But do we accept it as it is, or do we make any recommendations, or are we happy with to let it go through?
That's the street, just to give you, that's the street view. Make sure I'm in the right location, I think
Yeah.
So if the property would be, the access would be here somewhere, and that's the view down there. That would be the highway into the property, I presume.
Mr. Chairman, I think you can see from that photograph, it doesn't look like a road. If you were walking along there with your children, dog, whatever, it's not something you'd call perimeter road, and we all know why. I've been there years and years. I still think it's if we are minded to have no objection, I think we should ask that there are signs at the end of that, either end of that road, to warn people that vehicles can travel along there, because it's not clear from that at all.
There are other properties along there.
No, they're not served from Perimeter Road. is
It's
what-
there, yeah. There's one just on the left to there, and there's one round the corner here, and the no motor vehicle signs is about 100 yards further down towards Charter.
Permitted except for.
Yeah.
That's going that way, yes, not the other way.
Obviously saying there's a property around this.
That's right, yeah, there's one, what used to have a bus in there, so there's one there, and if you keep going on a bit to the, and then turn left, you'll see the no vehicle signs.
It will not, yeah, because that's where,
Yeah,
that's where the
Yeah,
street view ends.
Okay, so what comments should we make on this, if we need to make any at all? What would be your? Carol, did you?
Well, my comment would be that it's has a very significant impact on that perimeter road, which is used by a lot of people, assuming that it's a footpath, it's a walkway, that they don't have to think about cars. If they are minded to approve it, then I think there should be extra signage to warn people.
For that to go through as a recommendation, yeah. Otherwise, we're happy to want to suggest approval.
yeah.
Okay. Good. 231769. This is an application for a drop curb on Butts Hill Road. There is already a dropped curb to this property. I think it's an additional side on curb for allow for another vehicle to be parked off road. Anybody see any problems with that?
Just the spelling.
Okay, do we pick them up on spelling then?
That is copied directly from the notification letter.
Yes,
Okay, we're all happy with that one.
Yeah, sometimes it isn't, but.
Moving on, 231786 is, where am I? Lost it, 786, 25 Cypress Road, Woodley. Household application for the proposed erection of a single-storey rear extension following demolition of existing conservatory. This one is Cypress Road. The property itself backs onto the green area on Coleman's Moor Road, so it's not overlooking any properties other than the green area on Coleman's Moor. Other than that, I don't have any comments. Anybody else have any comments on this one? No. Okay, we're all happy with that. That one's fine. Thank you very much. 231798 is 14 Wingate Road. This is householder application for the proposed erection of a two-storey front and side extension and a single-storey rear extension following demolition of the existing garage and shed, plus the addition of a front canopy roof. This actually, when you look at the plan, it's quite a considerable area. It's about almost half a gain of the house, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're away some a chance to look at it.
We're not coming out a great deal. I think the extension on the back would come out further than the original conservatory, even though they're taking the conservatory down, I believe.
Number 18 has done the same. So
Yeah. So there we are. That's it. I mean, obviously, it moves closer to 12, but. Any points on that one? Any concerns? No? Okay, we go with that one. On to 231828. This is Rothwell Gardens. I think, was this the one where we had a note, further note came in? This one. Was that Rothwell? Oh, no, it was that one, sorry, that was Tippins. Right, Yeah, Rothwell Gardens, household application for the proposed erection of a single-storey front extension with a canopy roof and first floor side and two-storey rear extension with 1 number Juliet balcony following demolition of the existing rear conservatory plus conversion of the garage to habitable accommodation and changes to fenestration. I think there was concern on this one over the Juliet balcony, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's a letter. From the-
Yeah, there is a letter
Number
on this,
7.
from number 7.
Yeah, to be
Saying,
fair.
oh, that is this one, isn't it? Yeah. We've got the letter, you've got a copy of the letter here, yeah?
Yeah.
Any comments on that at all? Do we take into account the feelings of number 7? Yeah, they're saying that this will reduce the distance approximately, which is 20 metres. The borough guideline states 22 metres. So they're actually reducing it lower than the borough guidelines. So that's something we should be concerned about. If we make that point, it's noted. And also the Juliet balcony.
There are two sides to it.
Sorry?
Sorry, you're always looking
Oh,
at
yeah.
that way.
Yeah, I will. Sorry, I'll turn around. Sorry, did you have a comment?
I did.
Yes.
I think we should be supporting the residents, especially when they highlight the design guide. There's very few policies that we can use, and I think that's certainly one of them. And the overlooking. So I think we should do more than to say no objection. It should be that, or objection, whatever we're saying, but certainly supporting the residents.
Which resident? The one who's got the house or the one that's objecting? They're both residents.
Yeah.
You're saying the one that's objecting? Yes, yeah.
And
I mean, the 2 points are the distance from the neighbouring property and also the Juliet balcony that's overlooking.
Yes, I was right, Juliet. Balcony in that area.
Sorry?
Sorry?
What did you say?
No, I wondered what there was Juliet balcony in that area for.
Because it's in vogue, isn't it? It's the on trend.
At the end of the day, it's just like a long window.
Yeah.
You can't go out on the balcony. But it does affect the privacy of the people behind.
Hardly any real Romeos in Woodley.
Thanks, Linda.
yeah, could I propose that we object to this one based on those concerns raised by the residents, overlooking
Yeah.
and the fact that it's against the design guide.
Okay, thank you. Right, 231846. Full application for the proposed subdivision of the site and the erection of a 2-storey side extension to form 1 terrace dwelling with associated parking. This one is actually, as I say, demolishing the existing and building, sorry, go back again. Yeah, it's building on and making it a terrace of 3 houses, which I think one of the neighbours has objected to. I was quite surprised.
What's the address of this one?
This is 44 Coppice Road. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, 44 Coppice Road. I think what I didn't quite get, the guy who's objecting is a tenant of 46. And he has said that he would be unable to continue to live there if this was approved.
I'm not sure why, though.
No.
Can I just give some context, the background? The property itself came up just, I think it must have been just fairly towards the end of the last electoral cycle. And the resident applied for a parking access across the drive to number 44, highlighting that the parking to the property at number 44 currently existing is round the back.
Yes.
And the resident stated that it was 30 metres away and that was too far to go. Highway, I think actually looking at the decision notice, Wokingham's landscaping and trees team recommended refusal for the loss of amenity land, but Wokingham planning approved it, saying that actually the distance to the parking around the back is too far. So that was agreed and approved, and they did that. Now, obviously, just for reference on the on this, it was this, except they're now proposing, when the subdivision of the site, that the parking for the new property will be the parking spaces around the back.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, I would object on 2 grounds. First of all, the terracing effect, because there aren't any other terrace properties of 3 in a row. And the loss of the parking spaces. If you look at I know we can't always put up a Google map, but if you look at the photo of that, there's a number of vehicles there, not just using the places where they're supposed to park, but the dark green triangle in the front. And I think they need to demonstrate a bit clearer as to how they're going to,
Against the other application, the applicant, it's the same applicant for number 44 as it's proposed 44A. Has stated access is desperately needed at the front as its only access point, and stated that the only parking is on a steep incline towards the back property in excess of 30 metres away from the front door. And Woking Planning picked up exactly the same issue and said the current parking grid of the rear property is on a steep incline located approximately 30 metres from the front of the dwelling. The local planning authority considered this inappropriate to serve the residents of the dwelling, so actually supported the previous application for number 44 on the basis that the parking is too far away from the front, but this new application to subdivide the plot is using those spaces.
Right, okay.
It's kind of contrary to the original.
And there's also a comment by the guy at number 44 that he felt that the plans weren't a true reflection, that the size of the site.
46.
No,
It's not as
46.
big, it's not as big as.
Not as big as it would appear on the drawings, and therefore the amount of space available is not as it seems. Is there any advantage in that? Are we, without going out and measuring
We've
it?
got Google Maps of it, Matthew.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the measurements are wrong. I think what's confusing about it is actually the level of it drops away quite, sort of sharply. So I think the architect's drawing, if you like, is a bit optimistic about this garden, because I can't see how they're going to do it unless they fill it all up.
Yeah,
It's easy.
And at the moment, they're just a row of cars there. So
Yeah.
And you can see the new
Yeah,
we've done this.
that's what was approved last year,
Yeah,
the
that's
access
right,
and the
yeah.
drop curb. Because that amenity land
Yeah.
previously used to
That's
go
right.
right on the way that was all grass to there.
Doesn't look a very sizable piece of land to put another house on there, does it?
Side for you, so.
But my understanding is where those cars are parked, that's part of the property.
yes, yeah, it would indicate on there, wouldn't it?
The boundary seems to run in line with that amenity land,
Yeah.
which would be, it's
Yeah,
that line
there.
that's running right along there to where all those, and that would be the parking for property. Yeah.
See how high those cars are compared with the level of the road, because it's sloping down there. So you're taking those
Yeah.
cars.
Yeah. Yes.
If I can just make a comment. Thank you, Chair. The previous, having read what it said up there, previous issue about the incline was on the basis of elderly mother. I cannot see if they're taking up single house and they're going to put in a terrace of 3. They're not going to be living there. The mother's not going to be there. So just caution using that as the big hook to try and stop object to it.
I think it's the more, I know the, it's the distance as well, but I know that the Woking sort of really pointed out.
But that was on the back of,
dis-
but that was purely on the back of the elderly mother. If you look at the previous letter you put up.
Yeah, because it says here, core strategy CP2 states that new development, this is the previous application, so new development should address the requirements of an aging population, particularly in terms of housing. However, the proposal will provide with this guidance because of the proposal originally to move the parking to the front of the property.
Excuse me, I don't follow this thing about the elderly mother.
In the letter that you put up, don't know who that was from, That one.
That's
there.
the applicant.
So the applicant.
And it's the same applicant as this property as
Yes,
well.
it's another family, we have an elderly mother, with paper toe, blah, 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 blah. And she's got mobility programs, arthritis, ability to access the problem. So to me, that is the rationale for the.
or wanting it, but that's not a planning issue, is it? Doesn't
No.
matter to us who lives there. That's what I'm thinking.
No, I'm surprised, but if it's in CP2, that makes it clear, I think.
It's to make sure that obviously any new development encourages parking that's not unreasonable for anyone of an aging population. So it's whether the new proposal retaining that parking around the back, the same issue is with that proposal as well, that parking is too far from the front door.
It does look.
Did you put your hand up? Oh, I thought, sorry, I'm seeing things there. Okay, so we have concern over certainly the terracing, which is out of character with the rest of the road. Is that one objection? What else how would you highlight the others?
It's the viability of the parking spaces. No, I think terracing is probably the only planning thing.
You can quote CP2. Which would cover.
Yeah.
The officers like quoting policies.
Yeah.
Where we're talking about.
Okay, so are we minded to just refusal on this one, or are we
Object, yeah.
object?
Hmm.
We are objecting.
We object or we don't object. I think we object to this one.
Okay, everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, 231860, 8 Phillips Close, household application for proposed conversion of the garage to habitable accommodation and alterations to the rear fenestration. This one, I might be getting confused. Is it not a double garage that's there and he's taking one away?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's not really, there's not really a problem with parking. It is purely the fact that one of the double garage is being used. Well, I think the second part is being used for storage and the other part is being used for domestic use, is it? Am I right?
Still got a garage.
Yeah, although he's put it as storage, although it's got an up and over door. On the plan, I think it shows it for storage.
It's still a garage, isn't it? It's still
It's still a
counted as a
garage, that's what I'm
parking
saying.
space.
So there's not really an issue on parking, it's not sufficient. Yeah.
Still counted. Still counted.
I think the plans, I believe the blue squares on the plans are suggesting to be what they show as parking spaces.
Yeah.
Or the space
Yes,
required.
so you want to work it out. Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't see any reason to object to this one. But if there is, please tell me. Anybody at all unhappy with it? No.
That's okay to me. Yeah.
231870 is 23 Telford present household application for the proposed extension of the existing front dormer. On this one, I think there's two dormers. One is already the full length, and all they're wanting to do is to extend the other one to meet it. That's right, isn't it? Yeah. Anybody?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Any issues with that? No?
That's the houses down there.
Okay, we're okay with that one. Two, 31871, former Travis Perkins site, which we are no doubt familiar with, having shop there. Full application for the proposed erection of a building to form a residential care home, use class C2 with access, parking, landscaping and associated works following the demolition of all the existing buildings on the site. I think when I looked at this, I mean, I don't see anything truly to object. I'm just concerned. I think it's 68 beds, this property.
70 on suite.
70, yeah. And there are 24 car parking spaces. Only 4 for staff, only 4 allocated for staff. So you're looking at, say, 20 car park spaces. Not suggesting that many of the residents will have vehicles, I wouldn't have thought, but certainly you would have visitors and trades and doctors turning up. I wonder whether it might be a bit tight on parking spaces. I was rather surprised that there's only 4 spaces for staff actually shown. I would have thought with a care home of 70, you would have had to provide more parking spaces for staff. And bearing in mind that particular area is a small access road to it. I think you've got the pub first and then turning on the left. It's very difficult to park on the road. So, you know,
It's got the, just
Yeah.
in front of it, and then there's the ground.
so that was my only issue. There's not a lot behind the Department of Telephone Exchange that would be, because it is a 3-storey building. It's a lot higher than this here at the moment, but does anybody else have any issues on that yet?
I can answer your question. Because at the consultation they held, people were asking that. And their answer was that they generally prefer to recruit local people who would not need to use a car. You've got a bus stop around, not far away as well. Who can define, who can guarantee what type of staff?
Yeah.
But I'm only relaying, I'm not saying support or otherwise. Okay, that's what they were saying. They prefer to have local staff. It's better for the business than bringing people in. And according to the data they had, there should be enough staff to do it.
And also, there aren't any yellow lines around there, are there? People can park on the road. I know it's a bit tight.
No, there's that.
Where am I
The yellow
going?
lines tend to be on Church Road.
Yeah, there's no
Yeah,
restriction.
but
nothing.
not on the bit coming up
No,
there.
there's nothing around the back.
Woodley Green. Mm.
I think we should support it. I think it's a fantastic use for the
Comment.
site, you know.
Very positive.
A few people have spoken to me about it. Residents are back onto it actually, and they're delighted that it's a care home and not another housing estate or industrial unit.
Yes, I think had it been housing, we would have had more problems with road access and accessibility. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy with supporting it, but it's just only that concern on parking spaces. Even if you take that the staff are only going to need 4 parking spaces, it just leaves 20 for visitors and tradespeople, and I don't know.
Do they have to provide any staff parking?
No, but they will, no, but it would, if they don't provide staff parking, where does the staff park? Do they just go and park in the residence spot if it's not designated staff?
Oh,
In the pub, yeah.
there's another.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, are we happy with it as?
Yes, yeah, I am. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. We come on to 231, where am I? 909, 16 Fawcett Crescent, Woodley. Householder application for proposed erection of a single-storey side and rear extension with fenestration to match existing, following the demolition of existing rear extension and existing outbuilding. Does anybody have any comments on that one? No, I don't see any reasons not to, but we're okay with that? Yeah, thank you. 231927. Which is 21 Bodmin Road, household application for the proposed erection of a single-storey rear extension plus 2 number roof lights and formation of ground floor side window following the demolition of existing conservatory. I've got no objection, I've not looked, but it's just the bulk of it was a bit large. I don't know if it fits in with the surrounding areas. Anybody any comments on that one? We're quite happy with that one then. And 231957. Someone. 953. 953. So application for the proposed erection of a two-storey side part. Two-storey side part, single-storey rear extension, including fenestration to match existing and alteration of a hipped roof to form a gable. That's Delamere Road.
Isn't that in early? Yes.
If it, I looked at this on where it is. Does it actually? Keith would more likely know more than me. This is Delamere Road.
It's been sent to us as an drawing.
Oh,
apparently. It's
right.
actually
It's
quite far away.
Like
it
a-
is. Okay.
Yeah, Culver Lane, isn't it?
Is it?
Somewhere around there.
Down towards London Road.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah.
no
Culver
objections. I
Lane's long. Goes down there.
mean, obviously, if they send it for
Oh,
outcome,
yes, I know where you are. yes.
On the London Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're quite happy to let that one
Yeah.
go.
Mm.
And then on to 231961, 12 Martinet Road, household application for proposed conversion of garage to form a habitable space plus alteration to fenestration to match existing. Nothing at all on that one? No? Okay, happy with that. And finally, 232023, 83 Bruce Road, household application for proposed single-storey detached outbuilding in rear garden. This is retrospective. There is photos of the building itself. You've got a large structure, which is a gym and a shower.
There weren't any measurements given that I could see.
But on the drawing, was it?
Guard dimensions.
Right.
I couldn't see any.
And there's been a response before saying that if there is a scale on there, and a scale drawing, you do not need to provide measurements.
Scale of yourself.
Yeah, scale, yeah, that's the idea.
What's the difference between a scale and measurements?
They'll give you the scale of it, and then you can put your ruler across, your scale ruler across, and determine the measurements yourself. So if they give you the scale of the drawing, 1 to 100 or whatever it may be, if you've got a scale ruler, you can take it off.
So that distance is 0 to 5 meters. Yeah, so a planner's argument will be that there's no duty on them to state the exact
So-
measurements if they've got that scale on them.
The key question, is it too tall or not? That's the thing.
There you go. So the med that they have included there, 2855.
Yeah, so I said, isn't it? 2.8,
Maybe 9 foot.
Right.
Maybe 9 foot.
yeah.
Yes.
What's already in its place?
It's already built.
Yes.
actually. This is a retrospective
Yeah.
planning application.
Harold,
Yes, it is high, and as usual, the outbuilding is well away from the applicant's house because they don't want to look at it. And what it's doing is impacting number 65 and 67 House Drive. You see 67 marked. I think that should be taken into account.
I'm always of an opinion that retrospective planning applications are.
Should be refused.
Yeah.
On principle.
Does anyone check up that it is actually being used as a gym? Because I can see through it.
Unfortunately, I don't think it comes to planning, that becomes later with an enforcement officer going and doing a check, but at this stage, I don't think we can.
You don't build gyms like that.
Too pretty.
Yes.
Does anyone know how tall you're allowed to have your outbuilding?
Yes,
What is it?
don't know, can't remember. There's a formula, isn't there? There's a formula, it's got to be 2 point something so near to the edge, and it can't be more than 4 meters on the height. But then the planning officer, it's his paid job to make sure that's right, isn't it? You know?
Just on a sort of general point around this, we seem to have somebody bunging something in their back garden every month. And in fact, we've got an enforcement notification later on. in the agenda. And I'm just thinking we need to do some education of people about what is and isn't allowed. I mean, everybody assumes you can put a shed in your garden, and some of these are rather sort of extravagant sheds and clearly are going beyond what's allowed. Is that something we could?
Definitely put something out early last year about retrospective applications, of which the majority are these type of, oh, I thought I could build a once, a single story rear extension or an outbuilding, or at least that's what they say, and then put it in. There's no reason we can't do that again, or even schedule it in for us to do it once or twice a year as a reminder of it, but it doesn't tend to stop it happening anyway.
Yeah, I was just thinking specifically about sheds and extravagant sheds, because it seems so common.
Bill, absolutely, I agree 100% with what June said, but how much spoon feeding do we do with people? I'm forever pointing out to people their fences mustn't be more than 6'6", and they put trellis on top, but that's beyond the planning thing. And I think it's a duty that people, perhaps we should, spoon feeding is a long word, we should draw people's attention that they need to research whatever they're doing to make sure it's correct.
I mean, there's no reason for anybody not to make inquiries before they start building as to whether or not it requires planning.
Yeah, because ignorance is no defence, isn't it? You know, oh, I didn't know I'd spoken before.
The complication here, Jude, is that there are two routes to put a shed, even if it's extravagant, in your back garden. One is like this through the planning process. The other is permitted development rights. And that might be a good topic to circulate to the planning committee, the PDR rules, because you can then put in, you could do something like this as long as it's not too high, as long as it's a certain distance away, which is quite short from the neighbour's boundary. What goes inside, you can put anything you like. There is no constraints. You can even have someone living there as long as they take their food in the main house.
I knew there was something. I couldn't remember if it was toilet or food.
I think that's a nonsense. So you can have a granny annex with a kitchen, but as long as they don't actually eat the food in that granny annex and bottom garden and go to it's perfectly legal as a permitted development.
I was thinking more of something more informal, almost, that, I mean, perhaps not the Herald, but on the website, you know, are you thinking of putting a shed in your garden? Or something, be aware. And I think actually that you'll probably find there's somewhere on the Wokingham site that gives you chapter and verse on this. It's just pointing people in that direction. It just seems so common. And I mean, in this particular instance, you know, it just has to come down. It'll be expensive and a pain in the bum for the bloke. I mean, and if it's, you know, if it's wrong, it needs to come down. But it's just, if you can spare people that kind of grief. And then we had the one a couple of months ago, didn't we? Somebody who built rather nice summer house in their garden. It was again intrusive for the people next door. And it's just sort of going, I don't know, flagging with people. Is it right? You know, right, you'd rather people thought about it beforehand than had the grief afterwards. And particularly also as it's not very neighbourly. And you know, this is something we should be fostering, isn't it? I mean, why
So we
people
definitely put that last year, and I think what we can do is I can talk to the nursery about getting it scheduled in once or twice a year, because we have our social media posts and website usings that go up regularly, so we can definitely schedule that as a thing. There's no harm.
Be nice.
and if we put, you know, we've had 6 of these this year that have had to, you know, there's the danger that they might have had to be taken down. So to avoid that, here's, you know, 3 easy things to do before you start.
The stupid thing, John mentioned enforcement, right? The stupid thing is you will often see the word expedient, not expedient. You will eventually see that. And what that is someone has done something like this that is against planning, but it is not expedient, i.e. it's not appropriate to force them to go down the planning, and by default, they give them planning permission. So you've got the permitted development rights, you've got the planning, and then you've got enforcement saying it's not expedient. In other words, it's not worth their time and money to go through because it's been there.
Right, now,
That's the way it is.
Then you've got an applicant who knows that and uses that as his way of,
Most of these you'll find are really exactly that.
right, so what do we do in this case?
object, sir. I object, sir.
But for the reason of,
Sometimes.
Overbearing, too close to the boundary, possibly too high. Yeah,
There are some others living in.
and
It's the impact on the
House Drive, yeah.
okay, right, that's it, that's the applications dealt with. We come on to the next item, planning decisions, and very nice to note that the final decisions by Woking Borough Council mirror our own in every case. No contrary views. So that's, anybody got any points they want to make on that at all? Sorry?
They're finally getting it right.
Yeah. They're getting it right. We've always got it right. It's just them that are getting it right now, yeah. Okay.
They're learning.
Right, now we come on to the, where are we? God.
Page 2.
Sorry. Planning appeals, yes. Right. Losing myself here, where am I?
Top of page 2.
Six, yeah, sorry, right with you now. This is application 214173, land adjoining Sonning Golf Club. This went to appeal, having first been come through this committee, went to Woking Borough Council and was refused. It went to appeal and the appeal was dismissed. So again, a decision that mirrored our own. Yes, Carol.
Yes, there was the recent application for the housing at Sonning Golf Club that I represented town council and spoke against it at the recent it's called development control anymore, recent planning meeting. And there was this feeling that I think they thought they would lose it on appeal. Therefore, instead of doing that, they actually agreed to it rather than rejecting it. And it was based on what the appeal situation had done before. And then I see that this one's been refused, and I'm just frustrated thinking, well, if we'd known this one was being refused, would it have made a difference to the other application? And it's always happened, but it's very frustrating when decisions are made based on the appeal likelihood or not.
Yeah.
But just to say, the town council's view was represented.
Yes.
I don't remember, I've misunderstood this, but I thought they'd got another plan in their back pocket for housing on there, which
Well,
has already been.
The
So-
company, if you go down the road, the company that has all the hoarding on clearly states that it's a big home.
But that's not.
That's their business.
Sorry, Chairman, that's a different.
That's the
not
one,
approved.
yeah, that's got a,
The
no,
one
right,
that's the appeal was a
Housing.
100 lane,
yeah,
which is the block of land next to it,
Behind it,
up
yes.
towards the A4,
Yeah.
right next to it, and that's the one that the appeal was refused.
But isn't there planning permission to put houses on there?
That's on the golf course.
Yes.
That's
No, they're at the back, but there's another at the corner because.
there was 4 houses, wasn't there?
Yeah, but I thought,
I thought 18 houses and then the 50 which
Yeah.
have just been gone through.
But the care home where you've got big blue hoardings,
Yeah.
that is Trump going ahead, right?
that's what this appeal is noting, the care home site.
Yes,
There's the land adjacent to Sonning Golf Club development of special dimension residential care home. The
housing got approved.
yes, so you've got the care home, then haven't you got those odd 18 houses and then the 50 behind?
Yeah.
And I thought the 18 were the same site as this.
No.
All right.
This one is totally separate to the golf course. It's not actually owned by the golf course.
All right.
It's a 100 lane, which is a big house and a big land. It's very confusing.
There seems to be no recognition of the accumulation of all of these. We talked about, there was discussion at the planning meeting about the impact of the cars, etc. One of these sites at any one time may not be too bad, but you add them all up and but it's
Your concern was really that we get a little bit scared, or the office get a little bit scared about going to appeal
yes.
and losing and costing money.
It costs.
Is a backed up, but
It's a 5-year land supply.
Yeah.
And as soon as you drop significantly below a 5-year land supply, then all your policies, all your plans go out the window. And almost automatically, somebody might go to appeal. And the first thing the appeal inspector, have you got a 5-year land supply? The answer is no. They virtually immediately say, refusal is overturned, because you need to have the houses to get that 5-year land supply.
okay. So anyway, we've noted the fact that that particular one, the appeal was dismissed. Item 7, tree preservation orders. There are a number there. Do I need to go through them, or are you quite happy that you've noted them and they're there? Okay. And item 8, rail station ticket office consultations. And I'm pleased to say I've read through June's paper on this, which is very helpful and raises a lot of good points. So thank you very much for putting that together. And just opening it up really on people's views on.
What was the one I sent?
Is that comments to go to the
Did you send it to here or to Wokingham Borough?
I sent it.
Linda sent me some comments,
Right.
to which I responded to ask if you were attending the meeting, that you could raise comments at the meeting. So that was a couple of weeks ago at least, so when I sent out, I said you'd be able to raise those comments at this meeting.
Okay.
just to give you sort of context.
Yes.
We had that request, didn't we, from Wokingham, to ask, would we like to chip in on their response to this? And of course, we didn't have time, we didn't have a meeting, to meet it. And I just made the point to Matthew that, well, we can send in our individual comments, but we can't say that that is the view of Woodley Town Council. We haven't had a meeting, we haven't decided if we've got a policy. So we would have to flag it as that these are comments from individual councillors. My next thought was, well, kind of what's the point of that? Because we could do that as individuals who live in Woodley. And there's some point, I think, if there is any point to having a town council, it's having a considered view and perhaps a broader view and have our own sort of policies on how, we view all this sort of stuff. So having sort of discussed it with Matthew, I said, is there any reason why we can't send something in as a town council? Because now they've extended it, we've got a couple of days to whack something out. And then I just thought I would read through all the griff that had been sent out, because there was like loads of it, and just to see whether there was anything we could pull together rather than just repeating what everybody else is saying. And I've noticed quite a lot of local town councils have responded and focus their answers to a certain extent on what goes on in their own area and their own station that they're going to be impacted by. But what I found quite interesting just reading all through was that the same things come up all the time, and people are referring to the objections from some of the disabled groups and what have you, who are very sort of firmly against this, and obviously representing an interest group. But I actually found the whole thing quite sort of flawed, and I thought it would be useful perhaps to raise some of the issues around what they're talking about. I thought, it's absolute madness, I think, that they're sending out different consultations for every rail company, you know, which is, what, how helpful is that? But nevertheless, I think it's useful that you know, the individuals can send in comments about the things that actually affect them. And Matthew arranged to have something put on our news ticker on our website, just to draw it to the attention of people locally, because I just don't know, you know, that people necessarily pick it up. So I think really what I've done here is not so much saying this is a terrible thing or what a fab idea. It's, I've got so many questions about what they're proposing to do and why. And so that's kind of the gist of what I've put in here. I don't know whether you'd be comfortable with sending that out as a Woodley Town Council. I mean, I don't think I've wasted my time, because if you don't, I want to send it in just under my own name, because I think some of the questions that I've put on here are kind of fair enough. And I think one of the things in particular that the whole thing is silent on is, well, how do we measure whether it's successful and it's achieved what you've said it's going to achieve? And says, I haven't found anything. I don't know whether you found anything, Linda, that indicates that anybody's going to be monitoring it. It's almost like it's a done deal. Right, okay, move on, we're going to do something else. And I say I'm agnostic on some of the things there.
I felt it sounded like a done deal, that it was, you know, why were they even asking us? But I feel that some of the points that I raised over disability issues of using train stations, and particularly those two train stations where when they become unmanned, they then send disabled customers up to Reading and pop them in a taxi to take them back to dump them at the taxi rank of the station they should have got off at. Okay, and that's happened to me frequently. Okay, and at 11, 12 o'clock at night, when you're coming home, show up in London, to get taken up to Reading, put in a taxi and sent back to Twyford, where there's a woman travelling alone or two women travelling alone. You know, like it can be quite a threatening experience, and it adds an extra hour and a half to 2 hours to your evening. And I think it's just totally disgusting that in this day and age, as disabled people, we're still being treated in that way, because we put in, they spent millions of pounds on converting, on doing the conversions and putting the lifts in at Twyford station. Okay, to make it disabled accessible for disabled people, and then what do? They lock it all up at 6 o'clock at night. So disabled people can't use the platforms anyway.
That's certainly worth flagging, isn't it?
Carol, do you?
Yes, I just say thank you to June for doing this, because it's obviously taken some time, and to me, I would be very happy to support it. I just got one thing under the third paragraph under better service, as it talks about 3 of our local stations, Reading, Winner's Triangle and Reading. I presume that's early, so it's just a something to be checked.
Reading is even worse. When they take you off the train
Oh,
to Reading, they leave you on the platform and you have to make your way through the tunnel underground by yourself to get to the car park.
So that is a typo then.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's early.
That was the test.
I
See if we read it.
This was done, but I only just got back from.
Anybody got any other comments that they feel that we should bring to the attention?
I think-
Sorry,
can we just add that thing, the point Linda was making about access to the other services on the station, because I hadn't crossed my mind there. So presumably you can't like get to the loos and
You can't go to the toilet. You can't use the station at all. Once it's become unmanned in the evening. You can't get to the toilets. The lifts are actually locked, so you can't even get down to the platform or the football platform. If you know, unless they actually persuade, Paddington, if they persuade they contact the train operators and the signal people, and if they persuade them to bring the train in on platform 1, you're okay. If you can get off the train independently and get a wheelchair off the train independently.
Can I just ask you, revise? That's what's happening now.
Yep.
What would the effect of withdrawing the ticket offices make any difference to what we're
When you have the ticket offices, they can actually arrange beforehand for someone to actually for the driver to actually get off the train to assist you with the ramp that he carries on the train.
Sorry, just to follow that up, the thing is, it's saying we're closing the ticket office and we're going to have all these people out there, but when you look at the times, they're reducing.
yes.
There. So in the Reading case, there are going to be fewer staffed periods. Yeah. And I can understand some of the little stations to a certain extent, but Reading, I mean, it's massive.
Reading is ridiculous. Plus, most of the automatic ticket things that you get, they're not accessible to wheelchair users because you sit too far away from them and they're too high up to reach.
Robert, you.
Yeah, I was going to say, be careful what you wish for, because Wokingham would actually have people at the station for a greater number of hours than they currently would now. And I thought I read somewhere that Reading was keeping its ticket office.
I think they're staggering it, getting rid of it.
Quickly having a look. Yes, proposed current ticket office times, proposed staffing times. Right, yeah, so that is that bit then. But I thought I'd read somewhere else, or I heard on Jeremy Vine or something, that the large stations were keeping the ticket office. But
I think
quickly looking at this, it doesn't look like it, does it?
no.
It's on page 34, top of page 34.
No, I think they were.
I love this, June. I think this is fantastic. Brilliant. Well done, you. Excellent. And I would suggest that as a council, with the town council, we fire that off. That'd be great. But as Linda said, I think it is a done deal, unfortunately.
Yeah, but we can't lie down. And,
No.
And you know, I wouldn't say anything. I mean, because at the end of the day, these companies are trying to, make a living. Fine, not got a problem with that. But we put a massive amount as taxpayers into the railway. And so we can't just say, oh, well, that our objectives are to make this financially viable, because we're saying we have other objectives, and some of those are actually statutory. We have a statutory requirement to give equality of access to people. And so it's not even negotiable. It's the law, So we just need to stand up.
We've got a Disability Discrimination Act that was okay, and we should be using that act, and we should actually be putting our foot down and protesting and saying, we may be disabled, but we still have a right to actually access everything the way that you would expect to. And why can't I go to a show that finishes 11 o'clock at night up in London and still travel home?
Right, so this would go forward to, as our comments, with the addition of comments made by Linda. Yes.
Feeding the stuff into
Feed that in. Is everybody happy with that? Yes.
Can I just make sure that the 2 documents we're talking about gets included in the minutes?
Yes.
Because, you're only got 10
Yeah.
out of 25. And I think it's important.
Yes.
And I think
one option is to the letter that comes, I will run past Bill because it will go off in your name. And I can then make sure that letter is noted in the next agenda of planning as that is what was sent, so that you've got a copy of exactly what was sent, but it will include basically the comments Linda sent through to me on email about accessibility experiences in as a section.
Can I suggest, because there's a certain urgency, because the consultation is closing soon, it provides good ammunition for the town council who are not here to actually put in their own objections. If you by the time you put it into the agenda, the conversation's over. So that's where I was coming from. It's good data, good.
I think like Matthew just meant he'd put a copy of the letter in the agenda so we could see it, because they send the letter off tomorrow to get there for the day after, I imagine.
I'm off tomorrow, so it'll be sent on Thursday, but yes, it will be sent, yes.
But the next agenda is a month away.
Yeah, but no, you're saying just to have the copy in there so we can then see that's in the agenda.
As well.
Published. Yeah.
But I would say, send it, this is my suggestion, send it to all councillors.
Yeah.
With the encouragement to say, please
Oh, yes.
respond.
I think if there's any way we can post it on our website as well, to say to people in Woodley, this is what we said on your behalf, on a bit of a, it's a bit of a timescale to it, but which again that's another issue, isn't it, about being asked to consult on things with 10 minutes. It's not really satisfactory, but.
Okay, everybody happy with that? Yes. Item on the agenda is Department of Transport and National Highways consultations, and this is to note the circulation of the Woking Borough Council's IMD report. And this is, if you had a chance to have a look through this, if there's any comments you'd like to make on what's in the report.
Yeah, so the item is to note the circulation, to note that obviously, because as comments were requested by the 26th of July, they were circulated prior to this meeting, and the comments that were then sent off are at the bottom of that agenda, right, to note as well.
Okay. Item 10 is to consider providing the local green space nominations. And this is to consider providing comments with regard to the 2 spaces owned by the Town Council, which are being proposed for nomination of local green space under Wokingham's local plan. This is Malone Park and Woodford Park and Memorial Ground. These required the 25th of August, but we've requested a response by the 31st of August. So,
I'll just make one comment before we go. On page 44, you will see the map of Woodford Park. I have already raised with Woking, they're taking it to account, but the area around to the very bottom of that red mark on the right-hand side, Coronation Hall and the little orchard area around the park is not included for some reason. So it's a tiny section. I've asked them to correct that, and they've taken that board and they've noted that. As far as I'm aware, Woking will mark that. It's the same plot of land.
Yes.
I think it's just an error in their marking on the map.
right, okay. Any comments or any further comments? Sorry, Carol, we haven't missed you.
Yes, I looked up the Borough Council's local plan update on local green spaces, and now, I don't know if you can all see it, but there's quite a few things marked on there. So they're talking about just 2 areas, but this map actually, thankfully, covers Highwood and all around there, Bullmarsh open space. It doesn't distinctly highlight Bullmarsh Park or anything like that. But I think there's more, we should be highlighting more than these 2. And I've identified 5 areas that I think should be local green spaces. One of them we discussed probably a couple of years ago now, when residents in Lysander Close were faced with, and you'll remember that I'm sure, with somebody wanting, a developer wanting to build on a green area between Lysander and Hartigan Place. And I thought at the time we asked that that be designated as a local green space, because it's a valuable gap between the 2 and a good amenity land. So I can pass this to yourself or to Matt, but what I've said, I think we should also consider that plot of land between Lysander and Hartigan Place as a valuable buffer. There's Weevil Park that isn't mentioned. There's Loddon Mead that's not mentioned. almost open space. There's a global hatched area, but I think the Bullmarsh Park is particularly important because we've got some control over that. And then there's that green space, excuse me, as you go along Arundel Road with Wingate Road on your right, there's a big area to kick around, green space. And that's really very important to local residents. It's also visibly advantageous as well. So I don't think we should just say yes to what they've come up with. I think we should be highlighting more spaces in an attempt to protect.
Is this ownership though? Where did the ownership of this land come into it?
These letters specifically have been sent to landowners, so if you own land that they are proposing, so that's what these letters are asking for, comment as a landowner on land that they are proposing. I do remember 2 years ago when we nominated someone, I'm trying to find the details of the land that we wrote to and suggested at the time. Yes.
To help you, Matthew, the debate we had a couple of years ago was currently the Bullmarsh open space or Woodbridge Park, Carol can correct me, what is the correct terminology there, has protection because it is currently a site of urban landscape value. It's not too dissimilar to the protection that a local green space, you can argue marginally it's better. So it is already protected. You can't have both. So if you pitch it for a local green space, it loses the site of urban landscape value. The danger of that is the site of urban landscape value is there now. It's guaranteed in perpetuity, even though that category is gone a long time ago, but it's guaranteed in perpetuity. If you go for it to be a local green space, you can't guarantee that that's going to get through the whole process. The planning inspector may throw it out, somebody else may throw it out. So it's the classic case of, bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. So I personally have always said, we've got protection, leave it as is. And in terms of Lysander Close, it's got protection because Bill, if you remember, you did it. And the protection actually is the tree preservation order, but it's a blanket tree preservation order for all the trees in that area. And that is again existing and it is protected, which is what stopped the development in its tracks. So that was just really some data.
Yes,
But why aren't the other parks that are owned by the landowner, Woodley Town Council mentioned?
I'm just looking at the minutes up. So at the time, so it was March 2021 that they originally sent letters of similar nature to us. Those two areas of land were included as well as Malone Park. So obviously since then, and they've reviewed it, Malone Park has dropped off and they've only sent us these two. And it's considered a question when we'll have to comment regarding two areas of land which town wouldn't nominate. These areas of land are Malone Park and then Woodford Park and then more regular. Sorry. So basically at that time, they were asking us for evidence that we own that land. So we responded to them, providing them with that land, details of that.
You mean Weevil Park dropped off?
No, it was Malone Park.
no,
We've got Malone Park here.
Oh, sorry, in that case, it was only those.
So we've got Malone and Woodford, but we haven't got Weevil and
On a sec, Langborough Recreation Ground. Maybe we didn't own that. Maybe we're back if we didn't own it.
Well, that's
That was one. Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to confuse man. I'm just trying to.
You have.
I'm just trying to look back and try to remind myself of 2 years ago.
I think actually is not owned by the WBC. I think you'll find,
I
I have
think
to be checked, but
Yeah, one of the things it does say in the letter as well that in terms of ownership, it's not necessarily an issue for it to be nominated. So,
but we won't be written to as a,
No.
because we're not, if we're not
With the
landowners.
owners. Yeah.
We've taken on the lease for that, but it's still not, we're still not the landowner,
no, so we wouldn't get.
so we won't get the letter, so. But obviously the map that Carol's referring to is, shows all the areas regardless of ownership.
Good.
And just comments, and I got a little note to myself about Weevil. And in the document they've sent us, it says you can get designated as a local green space, where the green space is reasonably close proximity to the community it serves. Well, you could say that for Weevil, where the green area is demonstrably special to the local community and holds a particular local significance. I think you'd be hard pressed to make that point, that neglected area of grass. So I think we have to bear that in mind as well, you know, when we put something forward. And it says where the green area is both local in character and is not an extensive tract of land. Well, certainly Weevil applies that. I think, having read that, I thought really we ought to ask Leisure to get their backsides into gear with Weevil, and we ought to do something with it, even if it's only put some fruit trees or something in it, because if we can protect these little patches of land, having been through, as at last meeting, you know, mobile phone companies wandering around looking for places to bung a mast, I would suggest we want to try and protect areas that are in residential areas from bits of metal being stuck up.
Yeah. So we want to make reference to the Leisure Services Committee that we actually take on board these pieces of land that need to be looked after.
Don't need to touch up Weevil, I think. But I
Sorry,
think
if you don't own, if we don't own it,
we do.
why- we don't own Weevil. I don't think we own Weevil Park.
We don't own it, but what we've done historically in terms of maintenance is install play equipment, for
Yeah,
example.
and frankly, that is should be down to Woking Borough. If Woking Borough own it, why are we, as a town council, spending Woodley residents' council tax on something that Woking Borough should?
We're not at the moment, but
Well, we just said that we are. but-
it's on that list. It's on the list of our.
Areas of land that we maintain in the area, yes,
Right.
we've got a lease on it to.
So it's a lease.
From this point of view, just for this item, it's Wokingham asking us as a landowner of a plot of land that they are proposing, whether we have any comments on that proposal for that land. When we have any other views or thoughts to for that area of land that's been nominated.
Right, so there's two criteria then. One is, well, so the owner of the land must acknowledge that. And the second is these things about its value. So,
Yeah, so the letter from Woking obviously say that as landowner of land that's been nominated by the council and land registry that shows we are ownership of the land, gives you detail as to what they're considering for local place, and it's saying with any further comments you want to make about the suitability of the land to let them know by the 25th of August. So those letters are the item which is the obviously trying to give them those any further comments on those areas, on those particular areas of land. Carol.
Yeah, but to me, this is all about nominations of local green space. I understand in this particular case, it's also asking the owners of Malone and Woodford Park to make comments. I personally take every opportunity to protect any green space in Woodley because we're rather short of it. And I think, you know, it's up to Wokingham as to what they do with that. But I think we should nominate these spaces so they're not lost along the way, which is why I think, you know, Loddon Mead is particularly important, the one along Arundel Road, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever happens after we've nominated them is put it out of our hands, but I think we should be nominating them and try and protect.
What about Rivermead? It's land at Rivermead.
Yes, that's.
We own that, don't we?
We don't own that.
We don't?
No.
Oh,
Who owns that?
what, Rivermead, is it?
Yeah, it's slightly odd.
Should we can we put this on the agenda for the Leisure Services Committee? Which bits we do own, don't own, lease, and what money we spend on where?
We maintain it though, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah. Under the same principle.
Yeah, it's a slightly odd patch of land between houses. Which has got very high fencing on it. Used to have some goals on it.
Which we replaced, didn't we?
Yeah, we
Corner not
yeah,
being replaced.
compared some of the, so there's an issue, neighbours there and a lot of overhanging vegetation.
Right, okay. Any other points? No, okay.
How are we moving forward on that?
Well,
Looking at that.
the last comment was made.
So in terms, I think if I just try to, we've obviously got these two things to make any comments about first, so presumably there's no comments on those, there's no comments on those. Our nominations, and then obviously there's Cal's point about the other areas of land that we're not owners for that have not been raised in their map, therefore been nominated, and whether as a committee you wish to write to Woking to ask them to consider those.
I'd make that a proposal if there's a second.
I'd second that.
Everybody happy with that? We approach Wokingham, yep. Okay,
Carol, give me, you just make sure I've got the right list of.
I'll give you my map. with all
That will be perfect, thank you.
got to be done by the 31st, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, item 11, traffic regulation order update. A section of Coleman's Moor Road, shown in appendix 11, to assess and approve amendment to weighting restrictions as part of Woking Borough Council's next amendment. This is a piece of road that I had great discussions with residents about, because in the summer period, particularly in the summer period, a lot of people park there to use access into Dinton pastures. So they're parking outside their houses, and it's making it difficult for them to safely get in and out their drives. One gentleman complained that people were looking through his dining room window time they got out of the car. So they did do a temporary trial down there. They put cones out and restricted the parking down there for, I think it was 6 weeks, to see how it went. I think they lasted longer than that. So this is obviously now to do something about it, to put yellow lines along there to restrict parking. The problem is, I mean, I use Coleman's Moor Road all the time, and it's a difficult road with buses coming down there, lots of traffic. We've got masonettes down there that have no off-road parking facilities. Even garages around the back are not owned by the masonettes. So it's always a juggling getting in and out, and it certainly happens again when cars are parked further down. So it seems to perhaps be some way of solving it. I don't know whether it's just going to move the problem further down the road or what it's going to do.
There's no double yellow lines outside the masonettes, which is
No.
quite like.
No, they've had to stop there because it would be impossible.
Just for a point of information, Councillor Nagra organiser also meet with concerned residents there, and also the chap from Highways or whatever it is in Wokingham came down and walked up and down, and this was the solution that he came up with. Because people, well, I mean, there is a substantial problem. I have to say, I drive down there and I hadn't noticed how narrow it is, and particularly when the cars that are coming down quite steep drives. And we did explain to the residents that this will now go out for consultation, so it doesn't necessarily mean it will happen.
No.
But there were a lot of them, and they were quite exercised. And they said the parking had got worse during COVID, because people discovered the cut through to take their dogs for a walk, and it is certainly dangerous. That there's a sort of blind corner up there. So
I mean, that whole road is probably, I know we're not going, I'm going off but when buses come in to turn left into Coleman's Moor from, say, the Good Companions way, round, they take up both sides of the road. And there is a green area on the corner of that road that actually you could make a nice sweep. Now, whether or not you want to lose that green corner, but it would certainly ease the problems of buses getting in and out. Yes, Robert.
I say it seems to be very weighted why they haven't brought the double yellow lines beyond Rivermead Road up to the junction with Loddon Bridge Road. Because if I was going to go and park there and go for a walk, You know, the W line's there, that's where the park is. I just park here. You know, you would just, instead of parking along this bit, just-
So from.
They need to come-
Bridge Road,
yeah,
almost right way there.
yeah. And yes, I went down there the other day in my van, and it's a bit of a bum squeeze moment, isn't it, in places? Yeah.
That's a good point. I don't know quite, I'd have to go and have a look at that. I know what you're saying, and I think you're right, but I don't know why it wouldn't.
Yeah, you know, if the park was in the middle, you know, if the park was there, you could understand their logic. In fact, the park down here.
There's two reasons why they generally won't do it. One, you already mentioned it, because any yellow lines, all it does is shift parking. And the only way you'll have an impact, you can't shift it 50 feet. You're going to probably have to shift it half a mile or a mile. And the second issue is if you do that, residents forget that yellow lines mean they can't park there, their visitors can't park there.
You see, Keith?
Yeah, I know exactly.
The park there.
I've been involved for about 7 years, 7 to 8 years on that issue, particularly on highways. And we tried to do exactly that. And when it went to consultation, it was, hang on a minute. You're saying me I can't park there now, the residents who wanted it, or I can't have my guests, my family, my visitors, my tradesmen. And that's the downside of it. So I wish it luck.
Most of the people we talked to that day, they're actually going to be on this bit with the yellow line, and people saying they didn't want it further down for the sort of reasons you mentioned. But most of the houses on the left-hand side of the road, as you go up.
But did you
have been
make it absolutely clear to them that if it goes down, you're not going to be able to park there? Generally, residents don't realise that, but it'll be, the proof of the pudding will be the consultation.
Well, that was the thing, because obviously the people that are there, the ones that particularly exercised about it. But I mean, there is definitely a substantive issue there. Certainly, that's one of the other things the guy from Working On was suggesting, that they'd paint white lines across people's drives and take them that bit further, because what people were saying is that people park right up to the edge of their drive. If they do that on both sides, you basically have to pull right out onto the opposite side of the road to get out of your drive.
Those lines do not have any legal standing.
No, quite, that's
But
what he
most people, because I've got a mouse out my house, most people actually do respect it, generally because they don't realise it's not illegal.
Although one of the ladies near the park was saying she came home to find somebody actually parked in her drive, and when they came back and said, parked in my drive, I wanted to take my dog for a walk. Oh.
Okay, right. So do we want to submit any comments on this proposal? Is there any?
The only thing I would say, it's a bit half-hearted. It's something, it's just going to, I think it's just going to move the problem to others.
It can't go any further than the other way because of the Masonette problem.
Yeah.
So it can only go one way. Yeah. Everybody happy with that, making that proposal, that you don't think it's gone far enough? And it could go further?
I think, yes, yeah.
Personally, I'd be guided by the traffic flow from Woking, and I mean that's what he thought was a solution to it. So as far as you're ever going to get a solution to people parking.
Yeah. Right, okay. Item 12, Twyford Neighbourhood Plan. To note the Woking Borough Council's formally adopted the Twyford Neighbourhood Plan on July 20th, and where it can be viewed. Everybody noted that? Yes.
Yes.
Community Speed Watch. Unfortunately, I don't think David is even with us online tonight, is he? He's normally. So I don't think, unless anybody else has any knowledge of the way we're going forward with the Speed Watch. Sorry, yes.
I think I mentioned at the last meeting that I was going to go out with the Bullmarsh group, and Kester has been trained up as well, and it was quite thrilling. And they've got a very simple piece of kit that they use, which is just like a hairdryer. And so you definitely need a couple of people to support you, because you've got one person sort of pointing, so you have to kind of capture all the information you do. It is very manual. Having said that, we did an hour on Mars Way, picked up people travelling at 50 miles an hour up there. So the next step for the Woodley Town group is that really we need to identify some locations and get them signed off by the police that we, that we can stand in. And I think that's kind of the next step really with it. We've also got the issue about the kit that we've got, which doesn't really work. So I think we're all, well, they can't, according to David, we can't download the information.
That's just a big, that's a minor.
So that is
It's a
resolvable, is it?
Yeah, it's
All right, well, that would be super.
it's like saying, I've actually got a USB connection and the box has got an HDMI connection. It's as simple as that.
Oh, well, we were sort of told it's thousands of pounds
We've
of
had a long look
software.
at it, and David's spent a long time looking at it, and the issue is the software
Yeah.
drivers.
Thousands of
needed
pounds.
to read the information on the system
Yeah.
are out of
And
date.
you've been in touch
We can't-
with the company.
The company don't exist. They were bought out by another company in America, and they had the details and couldn't get it through. David tried a lot of work to be able to get the software drivers onto a
Because we
laptop.
have used it and we have uploaded the data before.
Since it's come back out of storage, no matter of work that David has done has been able to resolve that. He has not been able to get that information on there. I couldn't get it when I had a look at it as well. It was nigh on impossible.
So could I, since it has worked, David's not an IT professional and would reflect that review. So
Give it
and
to
it is
Peter
an
to sort
IT, no, I'm not an IT, but it is an IT issue that we get in a proper IT consultant with the knowledge and let them turn around and say, because it's £8,000 worth of equipment. It frustrates me when we don't use it.
In the meantime,
Hair dryers are working really well.
well, and Andy Croy, who runs the Bullmersh group, he said he is happy to loan us his kit if they're not using it. So short term, there is a kind of solution for that. I mean, but as I say, it is quite sort of, it is a bit of a palaver, but nevertheless, it was quite interesting. We got quite a lot of people walking past, stopped, and were actually positive about it. So it's about time somebody slowed these people down. And we also got a couple of toots, which I'm told if we get abuse or anything, you're allowed to report that back to the police. But I said to Andy, I'm taking that as moral support rather than abuse. But we'll see. But I think in order to proceed, and I can't see the point in recruiting people until we're good to go. And I think the next step is actually finding locations, because there's some quite sort of strict rules around what you have to have an exit. So somebody drives at you, you can lob yourself over a garden wall or what have you. And I think that's the next step. So I've also got access now to Andy's sort of setup, so that I can read it all through and find out what we have to do to do that. So I didn't have time before I went on a holiday, but I will have a look at it in the next few weeks and identify spots. But it's certainly very popular with, well, as I say, just people walking past. So that's as far as we've got, really.
Bill, can I ask you a question, please? You. Once you've identified a place, so say for outside 37 Church Road, and the police have said that's absolutely fine, can you just go there whenever you like?
You have to sort of log it with them on the system to say, we're going to be there between 12 and 1 on a certain day. And then there's a sort of system also for, they'll chase you up if you haven't uploaded your results. And so it is all sort of managed.
But if they've checked that area is safe,
Yes,
you can then just go, we're going there tomorrow, 1 o'clock, and just send it. You haven't got to wait for authority. So once the legwork's done, setting up the locations, we should be further.
Yes, I think the locations are the key thing. So, yeah.
Thank you for your work.
It's been quite interesting.
Makes of the cars, yeah.
Okay. Item 14 is community issues. Discuss and consider any recent community issues noted by members. Anything at all? do. Highways issues, always a good one. Yes.
I'm going to put it under highways. Loads of people coming to me, well, 3. Scooters, electric scooters. There's 2 down Brecon Road, and they go along at an excess of 60 miles an hour. And the police said, if we catch them, we'll have guidelines. I drove from the George pub, that junction, to the 3 tons to the BP garage at Shepherd's Hill on Saturday at 11 o'clock. I went past 2 police cars and 7 electric bike stroke scooters. The police don't care, they don't want to know. Their guidelines, and I pointed out to the policeman, it is a guideline, isn't it? They have to issue a warning first. So what can we do? Is there anything we can do to highlight, as we were with buildings in back gardens, highlight to the general population, these things shouldn't be used, and especially out here. Those 70-mile-an-hour bikes being in here as well, some evenings. What can we do?
We did that last year.
Yeah.
So we can do it again. We can definitely repeat that. We also had the police in, and they gave us a presentation. They discussed the matter with the previous committee and explained the legal ground that they have, the fact that they're not deemed motorised vehicles, but they're not deemed as bicycles. So previous members of the room, they came and sort of said their hands, until legislation changes, are very, very tied. They can do things under kind of ASBOs if the riding is particularly dangerous, things like that. But otherwise, they explain that their hands are exceptionally tied. So I don't know whether calling them in again to give us the same presentation is. I think it might have been recorded last year.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
I think it probably was recorded on there, so there might be a version of it, so you can go back and watch it. But we can reiterate in PR the issues that are faced by it again.
Yeah.
What about through the shopping centre, through the riding through there? What legal rules do we have there? Any at all? Because that's Wokingham's land.
He said no, I think they said they had no ground. I think the issue they had was that the vehicle doesn't come under a push bike, under.
It is illegal though.
It is illegal to ride off, you can only ride on private land.
And you need to remember about the precinct is actually, that's got highway road. So all rules and regulations for highways apply there, even though it's a precinct, because it's never been decommissioned as a road. Crazy, but that's the case. And so if it says you can't ride on a road, it will also mean you can't ride there because it's got on a road.
Well, therefore, does it work the other way around, that a cyclist going through there has the right to ride through there?
Probably.
Yeah.
Actually, I was in the precinct the other day and a motorbike drove through and the guy was wearing all sorts of black and all you could see was his eyes, so you couldn't recognise him.
Wasn't my son, was it? Oh, hold on.
Well, if I'd known.
What I would say is I can't recall exactly what the police said about it, but I remember it was quite comprehensive, and the response from the committee afterwards was there's very little they can do. So I would recommend anyone goes back and has a look at that to say I'm sure it was recorded, and to listen to that fully, and then maybe.
But perhaps we could go from a social community aspect as well, because I'm sure some people do not realise. Actually, I had said to a police sergeant who lived near me, she hurt her back and so she was riding an electric scooter. And I said, you do realise they're illegal, are they? So I do think it's an education. The police won't do anything. So perhaps we need to remind people of the rules regarding it.
But it's a law also about whether they're hired or they're owned. Hired ones, you have more flexibility on where you can use.
Only in the pilot areas. There's about a dozen pilot areas up and down the
Bournemouth, Bristol, yeah.
which they're trialing them. Seems to be a never-ending pilot, and that's the only time you can actually hire them. Is in those pilot areas.
Just a couple of things. interestingly, when we were down at Commonsmore, the residents there were saying they have issues with kids on these electric bikes, and they're using for drug drops into the park. So, you know, it is a sort of antisocial behaviour thing. But given that we have no powers to deal with this, is something we need to manage up and write to our MP.
Yeah, absolutely. It is government legislation, isn't it,
We
after
need to
all?
collect some data and some examples and manage it up.
Which MP though? 'Cause we've got two MPs.
All of them.
It's silly us wringing our hands about it. We've got no powers of, you know, unless you find some little wires.
And the police were indicating that they were waiting on legislation, and that was what, so we're just waiting on them to legislate against it, to give us the powers to then deal with it properly.
Absolutely. So, you know, so I think, you know, they just need a nudge that that's something that is an issue. I mean, if you think it's bad here, you want to go into London. It's just hideous. And I'm amazed more kids haven't been killed actually on them. No lights, nothing, just.
Can that be a proposal then that we write to MPs?
Yep.
There's nothing we can do about it.
Can you make sure you copy the business?
A copy of the PCC, yeah.
So he's aware.
Yeah.
He was the one who came and presented to us. I can never understand why, if it's illegal to use, surely it should be illegal to sell. That would kill it, stone dead.
Yep.
Not just electric bikes, but lots of things.
Yes.
It's not illegal to use them on private land, is it? So, you know, the guy who's selling it says, you can only use this on private land. The guy says, yeah, that's fine, I'll only use it on. How do you legislate that?
But the trouble is that's you know, condoned. It's just becoming sort of rife, and and it is linked to antisocial behaviour as well as you know, endangering pedestrians and the kids themselves, because it's mostly kids, isn't it?
Yes. Okay, we'll do that. Thank you very much. Right, where are we? Highways. That was highways, wasn't it? That came under your highways. I'm trying to-
Yes, sorry, yeah.
Community or highways, so we've got nothing else on highways apart from the scooters as such. No,
Unless cycling strategy is under highways. Have we found the cycling strategy?
Probably to-
I thought we were going to circulate it as soon as we found it, so we can all have a think.
Because that's a September meeting, we're discussing it, weren't we? And we said at the last meeting that I might just be making this up. I thought Carol had the cycling strategy and was going to send it to Matthew, or it was already on the system and Matthew was going to find it.
I've looked back through previous meeting records, and it was definitely something that was raised and brought to several meetings, but was never put. I think it was pre-COVID? I think it was, and it was never adopted. There's no record in minutes of it, this committee approving, or any other committee approving that strategy.
Both
It was
sides
through as a
approving, is have we actually got it?
Yes, it
The version of it exists back in the records from previous.
Can you
meetings.
email
I think I have a note to pull that together for the next meeting.
Right. So picking up with what June's saying then, can you email that out to us all so we've got a good old look at it and can have a good old nose through? And relating to item 17, jumping in a bit quick, we make sure that cycling is on the next planning committee agenda. So again, we've actually got that on there. And if that strategy can come to us all, we can then all be up to speed.
Here, September item transportation, carry forward quarterly, pull together history of cycling subcommittee, go through discussions, outcomes, resolutions, terms of reference and strategy.
Excellent.
But it is down there ready to go for next meeting.
But if we can have that all out.
Send that through now. I can
Yeah,
definitely
please,
send it.
because we'll be here till midnight otherwise, I think, at that meeting. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, Bill.
okay. Publications, information, note receipt of the following: the Me Too Club newsletter from July 23, the PCBE bulletin, and Wokingham Volunteer newsletter, summer 2023. Note the receipt of that. Future agenda items. Well, we've just discussed cycling. Any other future agenda items that we need to go through? No suggestions? Okay. Publicity and website. Well, we're going publicity and website. We've decided on making people more aware of planning issues. And to apply for planning. And perhaps the use of scooters.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to highlight our comments about the ticket offices.
Yes, yes, yeah. Okay. Enforcement issues, to note the enforcement notifications and 19A, pages 46, 47. Let's have a look. They're very high on the back, aren't they? Enforcement notifications, Mannock Way, fence not erected in accordance with approved plans. And Bruce Road, buildings in rear garden without planning permission. There's no decision on those, but the public disclosures as listed, you've all got there. Any comments on any of those at all? Whether or not you agree or disagree with the decisions that have been made, if you know of them.
Does anyone know about the last one? The strange thing, Springfield, Foster's Lane, historical notice served 2nd of April 1979, historic record.
Foster's Lane.
Very odd.
Used to be a donkey sanctuary, that did it. Yeah. Maybe little donkeys being in there.
Sure, they're not still there, and that's what they.
I don't know, it may be them updating there, I can ask them what, maybe that they're updating their records.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
on there, it comes up on the report.
That's an enforcement, but anyway, there you go.
Check it out, we're leaving it, Jenny. There you are.
Okay, if that's it, that brings the meeting to a close. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending.
Thank you, Bill.
And I have found June 2020, the list of local green spaces that we nominated for Wokingham at the time. So we can cross-reference, so we sent a list at the time that Wokingham asked us for nominations. We sent a list over to them. So if they've.
So if anyone who's on the parapet is on that list, already nominated, so that is going to
Yeah.
Nice, that's good.
Well, we don't- yeah, so. You have the cross-reference, so they might just be able to. If you've done it, then ignore it.
Last week. Yes.
Yeah, everything was in the whole month.
Next time,
Get bigger ones. So